So I think for a long time I've been interested in character-driven filmmaking. I think I really love movies that focus on just one person and just tell the story of this one character. You kind of get to know them. And Nick and I lived together in Los Angeles and had talked about working together at some point. I think it always kind of was off in the abstract, a few years down the road. And at a certain point, I don't quite know what changed for me. I don't know what changed for you, but there's a certain moment where it's not like, let's just do it right now. Let's just start right now. And so I started thinking. Wanted to do a short that was just like, really about one character in that way. And I thought, what would Nick be really good at? What would be the right role for him? And so that was kind of the jumping off point. And just started writing, and I showed him the script. And I mean, you can say.
I mean, he walked into my room and he's like, I've got it. I wrote it, and he gave it to me, and I read it, and I was like, that's it. That's the one that we're doing. And then we would just almost every couple of days, he would walk into my room, and late at night, we would just kind of talk for 4 or 5 hours, and it became something where early on we didn't really know. We were kind of working out the story, and then after a while, because it's so character-driven, it just became about building the world of this character. And so, we would just kind of like sit down and we would think like, is this something that he would do? I think this is something that he would do. And then, from there, it kind of grew into this larger construct, and we focused on one night, but I think we built a very big world for him, which is one of the reasons why I think people watch the film and they think, oh, is there a feature? Is that something that you're going to do? And in reality, we have a lot of material for that, but I think what we were really interested in was this one particular night and kind of shaping a story around that.
I find people who are very socially charismatic and have a kind of fearlessness socially to be very, I think it's an amazing skill, almost kind of a magical quality that's like very, very mysterious and maybe also a little bit scary. Just I'm not quite sure how it works. And so I literally started with an image. Like I've said before, I think Nick is one of the best storytellers I've ever met. I had this image of Nick telling the story to a big group of people, and they're all very engaged. And then he kind of walks, and he has a big smile and walks away and just goes like, kind of moves on to the next thing. Something about this idea of like a storyteller who has an ulterior motive was very interesting to me.
Yeah, somebody who can kind of turn it on, and when you look at them, you have no idea that there's kind of something else going on, and then the second that you look away, it just drops, know. And from my point of view, it's something that you actually have to have as an actor. You have to be able to kind of have something else going on in your life, and then you walk in and you have to be able to turn it on and kind of sell a particular character or a scene, and then when you walk away and the camera's cut, you can go back to your real life. And so I think in some ways it was a perfect role for someone who is an actor, but also for someone who enjoys being social and enjoys kind of being the life of the party. It's just, and for me too, I've definitely met people like that.
Absolutely.
I mean, we thought a lot about, there were particular people, particular moments where we've come across someone who just has this look in their eyes of anything is possible. I think it was a combination of the charismatic element and also of that really dangerous sort of
like unhinged
flair
quality,
where they could really just do anything. And I think that comes across in the film, that this guy really could just do. He has no qualms about doing anything as long as he wants to do it.
Yeah, and I think a big inspiration for me was just like, I love movies that kind of shake me up a little bit, just that kind of just make me squirm and make me kind of a little bit uncomfortable in a good way, And I think that at every turn we were thinking like, what's uncomfortable? What is edgy's not the right word. What's kind of thrilling to watch? What's unnerving to watch? I think that to me, movies that do that to me are some of my favorites for sure. I mean, I think a film that I constantly reference is the Dardenne brothers, The Son. I just love that movie. I think it's an amazing film about this very strange man who does this very strange thing of mentoring his child's murderer in this way that you just like never know what he's going to do. The tension of the film is whether or not he's going to kill this kid, of course, and I just find it to be such an unsettling portrait of such a mysterious person. But I'm always kind of, the thread of interest is so strong for me. That's one I think about a lot. I'm a huge fan also of Jacques Audiard's Un Prophète, which is a more sympathetic protagonist for sure, but still somebody who does a lot of unlikable things, you know, and we're trying to kind of figure out how to feel about this kid, you know. And then also a few American films. I love Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, that Sean Durkin directed. Again, a little more sympathetic character, but just a really intense focus on one person who has a mysterious past and who you're trying to kind of decode a little bit. I think for me, the thrill of cinema is primarily based around this kind of I love naturalism. I love films that suggest the real world to me, and you kind of get to, in an almost documentary sense, spend time with somebody else's life and just kind of learn about the life of another human being. I think is fascinating.